After 2 days of sitting around and doing pretty much nothing, I'm ready to get back on the trail. I'm not quite fully healed, but when are you ever? Part of life on the trail. So I'm back here at OASIS. This is officially the southern terminus of the Florida Trail. So if you're wondering what I've been eating along the way, I still don't have my stove, and at least for now, since it seems to be hard to get fuel, I'm not going to get it back. So I've just been bringing things I can eat anytime, cheese blocks, tortillas, stuff like that. My cousin was nice enough to run me to a store a couple of days ago, so I do have a few pieces of fruit, but I'm basically just gonna go on staples, no separate dinners or anything. This is what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, until I get to Clewiston at the very least. So Umut brought me by Starbucks this morning, and I think that was my first proper coffee in a couple of weeks, because that one Starbucks large was enough to make me jittery, well, combined with the empty stomach. I am really ready to get on with this swamp. It's raining off and on, but not too bad. It's overcast, so at least it'll be cool. And I have 30 miles of wilderness, which happens to be knee-deep swamp water, but hey, after this Keys Everglades Roadwalk section, I'm just really ready to get out into the wilderness a bit. I've been getting a little lonely out here. I mean, I'm talking to people online, which is awesome, but I haven't run into any other thru hikers on the Keys Everglades Roadwalk section. I'm expecting that to change now that I'm on the Florida Trail proper, but the opportunity to talk to people at the visitor center was really awesome. I spent a bunch of time talking to the rangers and then just random people. My lessons from the first part of the swamp are overgrown swamps suck, and instead of making 3 miles and change, I'm making 1 mile and change an hour. The Crocs and socks seem to work pretty well. My Crocs are a little on the old side, so the grips on the bottom, I had to be careful, especially going over the limestone underwater, since it gets a little bit coated with algae. I only slipped once, and that was pretty much in the mud, but problem is, you step on the limestone, you start to slide off of it, then you end up in the mud, then you sink down in a hole. So I was very, very happy to have my hiking poles. I'd be lying if I said I was fully recovered. My back's still aching a little as I'm carrying this, but I can't sit still any longer. You know, I had 2 days, 2 full days, so 3 nights in the hotel of basically lying in bed and eating pizza. I'm ready to hike. Oh my God, guys, I'm on an actual trail. This is amazing. See how low my standards have been lowered by this whole Keys thing? Yeah. I'm just a short ways past the airfield, and yeah, here we go. Apparently it is going to be wet all the way to 75, which is about 30 miles. But there are actual campsites on this section, unlike that Robinson Lake thing where there was only 2 dry patches of dirt the entire way. So there's kind of a little wall of water going down the trail with me. If you look close, you can see there's all these little fish in here. So the ranger at OASIS, named Athena, really awesome person, really enjoyed talking to her. She brought up a good point, which I actually hadn't thought about. You know, again, I'm used to West Coast hiking, being in the mountains, things like that. Thunderstorms. Okay, you're up in the mountains, not that big a deal. Avoid passes, avoid ridges, and things like that. Here I am in the swamp. So I can't really avoid the high point. I mean, I can avoid any trees, but kind of the equivalent to being in a large Walmart parking lot, which there were some people that died when I was in Boise because they were out in a large Walmart parking lot when there was lightning going on. Not to mention, I'm in water. So, I'm really hoping there's no thunderstorms for the next couple of days. Forecast says there shouldn't be, but I hadn't even thought about this. I guess if it happens, I would just get to one of the dry spots and wait it out. I've really missed getting to talk with people. Jen would always laugh at me on the Pacific Crest Trail because I'm the guy that wants to camp alone and, resisted joining any of the trail families. And yet, give me the chance to talk to somebody, it would cheer me up for the next day or two. Same thing here. I wasted so much time at OASIS just because I was enjoying getting to talk to, random people who saw my hiking gear and wanted to talk. So last year on the PCT, the 1 mile sign is kind of a big deal. It's also bone dry at that point. This is really cool though. I'm so excited to be back on trail. I think I didn't realize just how much it had me down walking on all the roads and everything. So much for this being wet the entire way. I've been up to my knees in water so far. There's been some muddy sections, and then there's stuff like this, which really isn't bad. 2 miles down. Well, 202. And only, let's see, add that, carry the one, 4,000 some to go, hopefully. So that's the trail on the right. I've passed a lot of these tracks along the trail, and I believe they're swamp buggies. Must be interesting riding in one though. I just came around the corner and saw that and did a double take. So here I am at mile 3.2. It's a little after 1 o'clock. So I've been going for a couple of hours, and I think this is an example of one of the camps. It's labeled Random Camp on Gut Hooks. Works. I mean, hell, it's a lot better than where I've been camping in the Keys. So if you listen close, you can hear the rain hitting the leaves all around me. It's been sprinkling off and on all day. It's kind of nice, but you know, when I'm walking, I'm sloshing and making so much noise you can't even hear it, which is a bit of a bummer. One of the things I always really liked about hiking in the rain is just hearing kind of the pitter-patter of drops going through the forest all around you. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. The hardest part of this, when the footing gets good, is slowing myself down. I tend to kind of default back to a faster stride, and then all of a sudden I'm, flipping water up my backside. Good thing I didn't do laundry, huh? So I keep having to slow down and kind of slog slow, and then I start enjoying myself and listening to my music, and I speed up, and then I splash myself, on and on and on. It's like walking on a dirt road, except it's underwater. So I've come about 7 miles so far in about 4 hours. I didn't start till 11:30. So I'm going about 2 miles an hour depending on the section. Honestly, like here you can see it's just muddy, and I have to go slower on that. When it's deep water, I have to go slow enough that I don't just flip water up my backside. And especially when there's water and it's muddy and I'm sliding down the holes, that slows me down. But I'm not in that much of a hurry. I'm hoping to get to mile, 10, maybe a little further. I'll pull over around sunset at 5:45. But God, I'm just having such a good day. It feels so good to be back on an actual trail. Why the hell did I do the Keys Road Walk again? So here's 7 Mile Camp, rather nice. Even got a park bench, fire pit. Granted, everything's so wet, I don't know how you're going to light a fire in all this. Wow. God, it's cool back here. Reached 10 Mile Camp. I think I'm going to take a break and figure out is there another camp I can reach in the next 45 minutes or so. I mean, I can camp here. You can see it's damp on the ground. Some people were apparently sleeping on the park bench. But it's been raining, so what do you expect? I couldn't bring myself to stop back at mile 10 with daylight still to burn. It is getting kind of dark now, so next dry patch I can find, that's going to be home for the night. Nothing like wandering through a swamp at night. Maybe I shouldn't have passed 10 Mile Camp, but per Gut Hooks, there is something in about 0.1 miles, and I'm ready to stop. Can't even get my headlamp out since it's in my pack, and there's kind of, nowhere to set anything down. Well, this really isn't ideal and the ground really isn't that dry, but kind of what I have to work with. I guess I shouldn't have pushed past 10 Mile Camp, but you know, I was just having such a good day. Oh well. So it seems like every evening as soon as the rain flag goes on, that's when the mosquitoes are out, and then they spend the night under my rain fly. I probably have a couple hundred of them, and you can hear them buzzing all night. Fortunately, if I wait until after the sun's up and then I remove my rain fly, the mosquitoes all disappear to wherever they disappear, so I don't have to get eaten alive as long as I take the fly off a little bit before I get out. So last night I pushed it a little past dark. Got here, there wasn't really dry ground, but I made it work between the tieback and the bottom of my tent. I didn't have water come in last night, so that's about all I can ask for. Really nice just being out, not having to worry about somebody finding me or traffic noise. Breakfast. The mud's been really exhausting. Slid down once. These Crocs just don't have much grip to them anymore. But every now and then I get a nice section like this where I can speed up just a bit. So this is an example of why I have to watch my footing. Leg breaker holes. "13-mile camp." Nice. Of course, it's not at 13 miles per gut hooks. This is closer to 17? Oh well. Hey there, buddy. So not having quite as good a day today as I did yesterday. Still enjoying being out here. But the terrain's been a lot rougher. I keep getting my feet stuck in the mud, having to pull it out, so I'm just run down. Per the guidebook, this is the toughest part of the Florida Trail for the next 9 miles or however many. There is a camp in about 1.6. I think that's going to be it for today. I don't want to get stuck out in the next section, which is another one of those absolutely no dry land and reportedly a little tough to cross. So my plan will be stay there, see if I can get either cell reception or word to Jen to post for a ride from I-75 tomorrow. And hopefully I will be at the rest stop sometime tomorrow afternoon and be able to get a ride around the Seminole Reservation. Hey. And it's raining again. Oh joy. Not sure how those people in the Gut Hooks comments missed this, but home sweet home for the night. Okay, home sweet home. I've got an actual camp. It's probably the nicest campsite I've had since I've started this. Mosquitoes are out, it's raining, I've got water. Time to cozy up in the tent. Okay, morning 3 at Big Cypress. I should be out of the worst of the mud and muck in about 5 miles. From what I hear, but we'll see. The last day took quite a bit out of me just because it's been deeper mud where you sink in and then have to pull your feet free, and just doing that hour after hour after hour gets a bit tiring. Also, the mosquitoes were rather bad this morning. There was no waiting them out, and with everything wet, there's no cleaning things up. You know, everything's muddy. That's after cleaning myself as well as I could. Ow! I feel like the first day, yes, I was in a good mood, but also the terrain was a little bit easier. So day 2 dragged a little bit more. But it's all good. Should be through today. Hopefully get a ride through the Seminole Reservation, which is still closed due to COVID. And then I see what the next section has for me. So that orange mark is a blaze saying that this is the Florida Trail. The people that maintain those have just done a bang-up job. I don't think I've had a section where I couldn't tell where I needed to go this entire way. Yeah, sometimes they're a little hard to pick out, but I mean, you can see from here, I can probably see 4 of them off through the vegetation. My one problem was I missed a turn, and that was on Roberts Lake Trail, which less maintained, though also really well blazed. So, would you believe that end of the day, day 16 of being out here, was the first time I actually got to filter water. Between not wanting to drink out of the ag canals and as a result carrying more water as a precaution, and just not drinking as much as I thought I would or that I really should be considering the heat and everything. Yeah, haven't had to. When I was going down the road, a lot of the water stops were just gas stations or things like that. And obviously the nights I stayed in a hotel, I tried to drink as much as possible. Now I'm going to get back to the agricultural canals here before long. I have a special Sawyer filter, which can supposedly filter out pesticides. So I won't have to carry through, I think the lady that wrote the guide said 60 plus miles where your only water source is the ag runoff canals. So it was raining for the last hour yesterday, and then once I get to camp, jump inside the tent, it rained really hard for most of the night, which it was nice that it stopped by the time I got started this morning. It was kind of sprinkling off and on. You can see the clouds in the background. Wouldn't surprise me if it started raining again. All my gear is inside of a plastic bag in my pack, so it's not that big of a deal. But it doesn't make this any easier. Foot travel welcome. Water wings optional. Whoa! We having fun yet? Hell yeah! So the funny thing about this trail is, unlike normal trails, when it's overgrown, it would actually be easier to walk. If I step over here and walk on this grass, it tends to be a little more solid, versus in the trail, I sink down in a couple inches of this muck sometimes. And I have to suck my foot back out. Curse my life choices. So this is the hanging garden section. Kind of cool. And even better, the mud isn't super squishy. I love this section. So I made it to Thank God Island. Yeah, I like the camp names, which is one of the rare dry spots out in this section. I only have 4 more miles till I reach the rest stop, and from what I hear, it's going to get a little bit easier after about 1.5 miles, which I'm okay with at the moment. Filtered swamp water. So that's what Thank God Island looks like from the outside. This is the swamp that never ends. So here's another look at camping options out here. Now, these designated camps are not the only place you can camp. I came across a few spots where there were palm fronds laid out and it was dry enough, but these are very much the nicer option. I mean, if you remember that camp I used night before last, that was pretty rough, and I was worried about wet ground seeping in to the bottom of my tent. This is a downright nice camp. Oh well, back to the slog. Well, so much for the water ending after Ivy Island. I've only got a couple of more miles till the rest stop, and I'm still wading along. At least there's been more solid sections, so I'm not always sinking down, but I've been sinking down plenty. Also, saw a really big turtle, which was kind of cool. So I finally found some dry ground, and I only had to get to mile 29.8. So basically, if you're doing this section behind me, hope you like walking in water. Feels kind of funny walking on dry ground after having the drag of the water for so long. So this last section is a muddy swamp buggy road. Honestly, this has been worse than a lot of the deeper water on the trail just because you sink so deep in the mud. Oh well, almost there. Yay, traffic. This is a bit of a shock after 3 days of nice quiet in the swamp. Okay, so 17 days in, these are the first hikers I've run into. Do I really smell that bad? And we got a ride, woohoo! Turns out I won't be spending the night at a rest stop today. It's scary. Okay, so we lucked out. We got a ride from another hiker who's jumping off the trail. So we're back on the canals. Yeah, this is actually some of the nicest walking along the canal I've seen. I think this is the most gators I've seen in one shot. If you're seeing a little thing in the water, that's a gator.
That guy. Freaking dinosaur, man. It's a good picture, isn't it? Take one of them.
So this was one of the nicest evenings I've had hiking along here, but you see all those bugs? Yeah, we ended up diving in the tent, and I am not going out till these things are gone.